You grew up in Nogales, Sonora, in a house where the walls were still raw concrete because your father never had enough money to finish them. He was a civil engineer, not a famous one, a tired one. He came home with white dust on his boots and calculus textbooks he'd never throw away. You used to fall asleep with those books on your chest. You didn't read them, you just liked the weight of them. That was your life, heavy, unfinished, and built by hand. You studied civil engineering at UNAM Extension Campus, top third of your class. Not the top. The top students got government contracts. You got a job reinforcing drainage infrastructure for the municipality of Hermosillo. You learned how dirt behaves under pressure, how water finds its way through anything if you give it long enough, how to read soil composition from a sample the size of your thumbnail. It is, in every possible way, the most boring sounding skill set, and somehow the most valuable one you will ever have. You had a routine. Every morning before work, you stopped at the same tianguis stall and bought a single cheese quesadilla, folded once, wrapped in a paper napkin. The woman who made them knew your order before you opened your mouth. You had an apartment with a second-hand couch and a window that looked directly at a concrete wall. It was fine. You were saving money. You had a girlfriend named Leticia who smelled like shampoo and worked reception at a dental office. On Saturdays, you watched football and ate quesadillas cold from the fridge. That was the ceiling. It was enough. The jar on the kitchen shelf had about 40,000 pesos in it by the time everything went wrong. You were going to use it for a deposit on a real apartment, one with a window that faced something other than concrete. You told Leticia about it the week before your mother got sick. She laughed and said you should buy a bigger jar first. You didn't think that was funny at the time. You think about it constantly now. Stage 3 cervical cancer. The doctor said it with the same energy he probably used to discuss parking validation. Your mother sat in that plastic chair like she was waiting for a bus. You stood next to her, holding a clipboard with forms you hadn't finished filling out. And you understood, for the first time, that your salary and your jar and your second-hand couch were not a life. They were just the absence of a crisis. The crisis had arrived. The treatment plan was 280,000 pesos minimum, private clinic only. The public hospital had a 4-month wait, and your mother did not have 4 months to be on a list. You did the math on a napkin at the taqueria across the street from the hospital, and it was the clearest engineering problem you'd ever failed. Salary, 14,000 a month. Savings, 40,000. Treatment needed in 30 days. The numbers did not move no matter how many times you looked at them. Leticia sat across from you and didn't say anything, because there was nothing to say.
A man named Rogelio found you. That's the only honest way to say it. You didn't find him, he found you. He was a friend of a cousin, which in Sonora is the same as a stranger, except more dangerous. He bought you a beer you didn't ask for and said he'd heard you were good with tunnels, drainage, foundations, load calculations. You said yes. He said he had a project, a private project, very well compensated. You said no immediately. He nodded like you'd said yes. That was your first warning. 2 weeks later, your mother was moved to the payment waiting list at the private clinic. Rogelio called your personal number, which you never gave him. He said the offer was now 400,000 pesos, cash, paid in 2 installments. He said you'd be underground for 60 days and back home by the time the leaves changed, as though Nogales had leaves, as though time meant the same thing to him as it did to you. You didn't say yes. You said, "Tell me more," which is the same thing, which you already knew was the same thing. They drive you to a Safehouse outside Altar, Sonora at 4 in the morning. Inside is a hand-drawn map, a soil report, and a man named El Cuadrado, the square, who has done this 4 times before and has the hands to prove it. He doesn't say much. He shows you the route with a laser pointer on the map, 22 meters down, 41 meters horizontal, crossing the international line. Back up 11 meters on the US side into a converted warehouse in Nogales, Arizona. You look at the measurements, your brain does what it was trained to do. You start calculating. Before they dig a centimeter, you take soil samples from 3 points along the projected route. This is the part nobody shows in the movies, the part where the engineer sits in the dirt with a probe and a field kit like a very underpaid geologist. The soil under this stretch of the border is a mix of caliche and sandy loam. Decent for tunneling, not great. It'll hold a bore of 1.2 meters diameter without immediate collapse if you use shotcrete on the walls every 4 meters. You write this down. El Cuadrado watches you like you're casting a spell. You're not. You're just doing your job, unfortunately.
Digging begins inside a house in a residential neighborhood on the Mexican side. The owner doesn't live there. Nobody lives there. You remove a section of tile in the back bedroom, 12 tiles, each one carefully numbered so they can go back exactly right, because the cartel is detail-oriented when it benefits them, and you cut through the concrete slab below. The vertical shaft goes down 22 meters. That's about the height of a 7-story building, straight down, in the dark. You're the one who goes first. Of course you are. At the bottom, it's 19 degrees Celsius and smells like wet clay and old pennies. You don't know why it smells like pennies. You never figure that out. Your helmet light is the only light in any direction, and the beam catches floating dust like snow. You are 22 meters under the surface of the earth. Above you are houses, streets, a school apparently. El Cuadrado mentioned the school and laughed, which was not reassuring. You take out your field notebook and start marking wall positions. This is your office now. Your office is a hole in the ground next to an international border. Your commute is a rope ladder. Here is how you actually do this. The crew digs the horizontal bore manually, pickaxes and pneumatic drills running off a compressor lower down the shaft, with a ventilation pipe that feeds air in from the surface house's back wall, disguised as a water heater exhaust. You spray shotcrete every 3 meters. You check the compass bearing every 10 minutes, because a 1-degree drift over 41 meters becomes a 1.3 meter error at the far end, which means you surface in someone's backyard instead of the warehouse. You eat protein bars that taste like chalk. You wipe your face with a cloth that was clean on day 1. By day 3, the cloth is the same color as the tunnel. On day 9, you hear something, a low mechanical sound, moving slowly. Your hand goes flat against the tunnel wall, and you feel the faint vibration before you hear the frequency. Wheels, heavy wheels, directly overhead. You and El Cuadrado both freeze, backs against opposite walls, lights off, complete dark. You count. The vibration takes 11 seconds to pass. A truck, maybe a border patrol truck, maybe a water delivery. You don't know. You stay still for 20 minutes after it passes, which is possibly the longest 20 minutes of your entire life. And you have once spent 45 minutes in a broken elevator, so that is saying something.
Day 19. Your compass tells you you have crossed the international border. There is no sign, no line, no change in the soil color, no sensation. The caliche on the Mexican side and the caliche on the American side are identical. The Earth doesn't know what country it's in. You think that's either deeply philosophical or completely obvious, and you're too tired to decide which. You mark the position in your notebook with a small X. Technically, at this moment, you are in the United States of America, 22 meters underground, covered in pale clay, eating a chalk-flavored protein bar. Welcome. You sleep 6 hours a night on a bedroll on the tunnel floor. Not because you only need 6 hours, because the ventilation system runs noisily for 18 hours and then clicks to a maintenance cycle. During the maintenance cycle, the air gets slightly stale, not dangerously so, just enough that your dreams get odd. You dream about the Tianguis woman and her griddle, except in the dream she's making quesadillas underground in a tunnel wearing a hard hat, and the quesadillas are full of caliche. You wake up and your back hurts, and the tunnel is 6 inches shorter than when you went to sleep. Progress. You eat a chalk bar. You go back to work. Day 38. The tunnel is complete. You built it in 38 days. For context, the US government spent 4 years and $2 billion trying to stop tunnels exactly like this one. You don't feel proud, you feel like a man who needs to stand fully upright immediately. The tunnel passes its first cargo load that night, bales wrapped in black plastic on a modified cart running on a small rail system you designed yourself, pulled by a rope through the bore. You watch it go from your end. You are no longer just an engineer. You are an accessory. You knew this was coming. You knew the whole time. Day 44. You're sleeping in the surface house on the Mexican side when the phone on the table buzzes 3 times. That's the signal. You're out the back door in 14 seconds. You had practiced this. You do not know this yet.
But at this exact moment, DEA and HSI agents are cutting through the floor of the warehouse on the Arizona side. They find the tunnel. They find the rail system. They find your field notebook with your handwriting and your soil measurements and your compass logs and a small ironic X marked at the international boundary. They do not find you. You are in Guadalajara now. You have been here 3 months. You do not have a jar on the shelf. You do not have a Leticia. Your mother's treatment was paid. That part worked. She is alive. She doesn't know how you paid for it, and you are never going to tell her. Every morning you still wake up early out of habit. For a few seconds, you feel the weight of the engineering textbook on your chest, the way you used to as a kid. Then you remember where you are and what you did, and you get up. There's a tianguis 2 blocks away. The woman there folds the quesadillas differently, crosswise instead of once. You eat it anyway. It's not the same. Nothing is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.